My name's Tom Mauriello, and presently I am a senior lecturer at the University of Maryland Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice. I'm retired as a special agent with the Department of Defense, retired back in 2012. I'm a forensic consultant. I have a company called Forensic IQ, where I consult for defense attorneys that are defending clients, looking at the whole process to determine whether there's any weaknesses in what was done right and what was done wrong. More importantly, what was done wrong. That's what the defense is always looking for. I'm from Massachusetts, but I'm living here outside of Washington, D.C. It was my understanding that a number of you were interested in knowing a little bit about careers and I think that's good that you're asking at a younger age, because I have college students who come into my class as juniors and seniors in college and are majoring in the wrong major for what their real interest is in the criminal justice process. So I can talk for hours. All right. So I'm going to talk, but Ralph, if you start getting questions, stop and I want to hear the questions. They were more important to me than listen to me talk.
You got it.
Okay. So I want to make sure you understand the difference between criminal justice, criminology, and forensic science, because they're quite different and they're different skills. Okay. Criminology, the study of criminology, is the study of crime, why people commit crime, and how to deter it or correct it. People who are criminologists are either doing research to learn more about what causes people to commit crime, but more importantly, in a practical sense, the types of jobs that a criminology type person would have would be in corrections or probation and parole. Probation and parole officers, their focus is on trying to understand the person, why they committed crime, and what they can do to help them deter that type of behavior in the future. That was not my interest. My interest was in the law enforcement, the criminal justice side. The criminal justice studies are in most of the programs in college are criminology or criminal justice. Criminal justice focuses more on law enforcement, criminal law and criminal procedures. A lot of people who are interested in going into law school in the future tend to major in criminal justice. Not that you have to, but they, especially if people want to go to law school and become a prosecutor or a defense attorney, they tend to want to major in criminal justice. So criminology is more social science, where you're trying to understand why people commit crime. Criminal justice is, okay, they already committed the crime. Now we want to catch them, and we want to find out how we can, identify the evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime was committed and that they committed the crime. Forensic science is quite different. Forensic science, the word forensic simply means applied to law. And I think we talked a little bit about this the last time I was on. The word forensic in front of any science simply means that that particular science analyzes or studies something that could be litigated or presented in a court of law. For example, entomology is the study of bugs. Okay, a forensic entomologist is a professor, an expert who studies bugs and their development and all that stuff, but they have a special interest in how bugs can help in the forensic area. For example, when a person dies and is laying in one area for a period of time, within 30 minutes, blowflies and various insects are attracted to that body. If that body is laying there for a significant amount of times, those insects lay eggs and there's larvae, and a forensic entomologist can study and examine those eggs and larvae and at least give some sense to the investigator on how long that body may have been there. Right? So it helps with time of death. That is an example of forensic entomology. When people hear the word forensic science, right away they think about autopsies and dead bodies, etc. Pathology is the study of the causation of death. Doctors who are pathologists study uh, and examine bodies to find out what caused them to die. A forensic pathologist is somebody who evaluates bodies that have died suspiciously or unattended, and there may be it might be an accident, it could be homicide, it could be suicide. A forensic pathologist, sometimes called a medical examiner, in some areas of the world they're called coroners. Those are the people who do that. So if you like science and you're interested in forensic science, then you need to major. You need to have a strong background in biology and chemistry, those general hard sciences. So if you're in middle school, you're in high school, and you really think you would like to be a forensic scientist. Now, the forensic scientists, they work in the crime lab. All right. Now, unfortunately, TV gives you a wrong impression of what the forensic scientist is doing and where they are. When we watch shows like CSI and those kinds of shows, you see them going to the crime scene and looking for evidence, and they collect it, and then they bring it back to the lab, and then they're looking at microscopes and everything else. So they're doing all those things, and that's not reality. A forensic scientist is a person who works specifically in the laboratory. Then they don't go out to the crime scene. The people who are out at the crime scene, they are evidence technicians. These are people who have been trained to be able to record a crime scene, to recognize evidence, to understand how to collect it and protect it and package it and transport it to the crime lab. As soon as the CSI person brings it to the crime lab, their job is ended. That's it. They stop there. Okay. Now, before forensic science got so popular, for evidence technicians used to be people who were interested in criminal justice. They didn't want to be police officers. They didn't want to carry a gun, but they were interested in the investigative process. So they had the opportunity to get jobs as a non-science major, focused, and they were taught, when they got hired, on how to record the crime scene and how to collect evidence, etc. But because forensic science has got so popular, now most of the larger police departments and forensic scientists who supervise evidence technicians, they're actually requiring them to have degrees in chemistry and biology, etc. So science is really important if you're interested in being a CSI investigator, going to the crime scene, or certainly in a crime lab. Now, which science do you major in? You need to just take general science courses, basic science courses in chemistry and biology. And with that basic knowledge and skills, you get hired by a crime lab, and then you can start focusing on a specific area. I had a student years ago who wanted to be a physician. She wanted to be a medical doctor, but she didn't know what area she wanted to go in. She also liked criminal justice. So what she did is, in undergraduate school, she majored in criminal justice and microbiology, or one of the hard sciences. She graduated, and her senior year she took my course, my forensic course, and she loved it so much. She tells me, that's not coming from me. It's coming from her, that she decided that she was going to medical school, and she wanted to be a forensic pathologist. She didn't know that until she actually took the course and actually got a taste of what forensics was all about. Today, she's the assistant medical examiner in the state of Rhode Island. Dr. Priya Banerjee is her name. I use her on my cases. If I have a case that I'm working for a defense attorney where I need a forensic pathologist, I hire her to do that. So it's fun hiring former students, and they're everywhere. So that's a quick and dirty understanding of those various um, types of careers. Ralph, are there any questions yet?
Yes, sir, there are. We have Annalisa in Italy, and Annalisa, I'm going to unmute you. Can you ask the first question that you sent? Because I was actually wondering this myself, because we have a lot of kids from various ages and grades. You're unmuted. You should be able to ask.
Yes. So, first of all, hi, and thank you for being here.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, what kind of subjects someone who is interested in working in the criminal justice system, like being a detective, should study? Maybe do they need to study criminology too, or other subjects?
That's a good question. In America, I can't speak for Italy, in Italy, but in America, you don't have to have a degree in criminal justice or criminology to go into law enforcement. We've always thought that should be the case, but you know that isn't what it is. So we have law enforcement officers that major in all kinds of different things. Obviously, I like to think in our Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice that we're preparing students um, that much more to have the correct skills, because we're teaching courses in constitutional law, criminal procedure, the history of criminal justice. Understand. We also, even in the criminal justice program, we're also teaching various courses in criminology. When I was in undergraduate school in Boston, my actual undergraduate program was criminology. It wasn't criminal justice. So I got all these courses on why people committed crime. And I kept saying, this is nice, but whatever the reason is, that's fine. I want to learn how to catch them. I want to know what are the skills I need to do that. But later on, when I became a criminal investigator, all that knowledge I had about why people commit crime helped me actually make cases, because I had a better understanding of the kinds of people I was looking for when I was. So it's not always physical evidence that catches folks. It's that those social things. So I think I answered your question, but if I didn't, please come back to me.
No, you answered it spot on. We have a question from Mev. She's also in Italy. And again, any students who have any questions, any teachers who have any questions or comments, go ahead and message them in the chat and we'll unmute you. Mev, you're unmuted.
All my paisans from Italy. My family is from Foggia, south of Italy, and my mother's side is from Sicily. So I couldn't be. And my father's name was Flavio Costanzo Mauriello. So I can't be any more Italian. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
There we go. We got like-minded backgrounds here. Mev, you're unmuted. Go ahead and ask.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Mauriello. I would like to know, how do you deal with a criminal that is highly intelligent?
You mean smarter than us?
Yeah, that's what she said.
I never considered that. A person that's highly intelligent doesn't mean that they're any different than anyone else. Their criminal behavior tends to be the same. On television, again, you watch a lot of shows and all these really intelligent criminals and etc. I've never found them to be that any more intelligent than anyone else. Because many times people commit crime, it wasn't planned necessarily, and sometimes they've been a victim of circumstance. So, of course, now when it comes to white collar crime, the types of crime we're seeing, with people in computer systems and everything else, and that's not my area of expertise, but certainly people who are committing crimes using computer systems, etc., that's a different story, and that requires. It's interesting you say that, because people who major in criminal justice and criminology don't have the right skills sometimes to deal with those kind of crimes. So what we've had to do is hire computer scientists, etc., to help us to better understand that. So depending on what the crime is, will depend on the level of intelligence. But generally, their intelligence has never been a factor in investigations.
Good to know. And we're learning a lot of stuff here. I've had a few comments from some of the students that there are misconceptions in the media, that you're kind of breaking down these barriers for them, speaking to an expert. We have a question from one of our students in France who, she doesn't have a mic, but she wanted me to ask you, did you always wanted to go into this field? And if you didn't want to go into this field, what did you originally want to do?
Okay. Well, I'm very fortunate that right from my early years in high school, I decided I was interested in law enforcement. I had family friends who were not all my immediate family, my father and my uncles, they were all bricklayers, you know, and I was the first person, Mauriello, that decided not to be a bricklayer. In fact, my father wouldn't allow me to be a bricklayer. He made me go to college, etc. But I had great respect for what law enforcement officers did, and I was never in the military, so it wasn't that I that I learned about it in the military. And we have a lot of people that were in the military that go into law enforcement. So my interest was early in high school. It never stopped. In 1969, when I was a freshman in college, that was the first year for criminal justice programs to be developed. Prior to 1969, there was no such thing as getting a degree in criminology or criminal justice or forensic science. You could take courses in those areas, but there were not academic curriculum. But because of a major crime bill that Congress had passed in 1968, they put a ton of money and gave a lot of grant money to the universities across the country here in America. And if they created curriculum in these areas, they got all kinds of money. Not only that, if the first few years, if you majored in criminal justice or criminology or forensic science, the government actually paid it. So I had every penny of my education paid for throughout graduate school. They paid my books, they paid everything. All I had to do is give them 25, every year of full-time law enforcement, 25% of what they had given me was taken away. So in 4 years, I owed them nothing. I gave them nothing, but my experience and skills. So most of the kids I went to college with, that I still are friends with, they changed their majors 3 or 4 times in college, and then they ended up getting jobs that had nothing to do with their majors. You know, when you think about college and the courses you're taking, no matter what you're majoring in, there's basic study, basic curriculum that is standard for everything. You know, your major, undergraduate school, your major is only 30, 40 credits out of 120 credits. The rest of it is all basic training, basic curriculum that everybody needs to know and understand to be successful in whatever career they go into.
We have another question from Italy, Annalisa. You should be able to unmute. I thought it was a really good question.
So I wanted to ask if, what do you think is the most accurate TV show that represents the job of someone working in the criminal justice system?
That's a good question. I have a simple answer. None. None. Okay? Because Hollywood is in the business of entertaining, not educating. And that's what we, the public, need to understand that. If education and entertainment conflict, entertainment always wins. I'll give you an example. I've done 5 documentaries for the Discovery Channel, 5, on real cases. And when I finally see the show premiere, I'm saying, what is this? I didn't say that. That's not true. Because if there's anything that is, they'll change things, they'll say things differently, they'll twist it to make it more entertaining. Because again, they don't have an interest in giving the facts. So as long as the public knows that, then okay, it's fun. I mean, I watch a few of those. I don't watch CSI or any of those because those are way out. Those, I mean, about 40% of the science in those shows doesn't even exist. We wish it did, and we hope it will in the future, but it doesn't exist today. It really doesn't, you know. But the problem in America, and I can't speak for Italy and France and other countries, is that we have this system called a jury system. 12 people who weren't smart enough to get out of jury duty are the ones that decide a criminal case on whether a person is guilty or not guilty. All the smart people, all the lawyers and all the judges and all the forensic scientists and all the trained police officers, whatever they say means nothing unless the 12 people believe it. And that's a problem because a jury is made up of everyday people, people who are not educated in those areas. All they know is what they've seen on television. That's their education. And that is a problem, you know, and I try to get out there as much as possible to let people know that, you know. And the lawyers, during when a jury is impaneled, the judge always tells them that, but whether they're listening or not, whether they're even awake or not, is another thing.
That's some pretty straightforward content knowledge right there. You heard it from an expert, guys.
And we're being recorded. We're being recorded.
You're good. We have Leonardo. We'll go with a couple more questions and then we'll let you go, sir. Leonardo, Go ahead and ask your question, friend.
Okay, hi. So my question was if you ever deal with someone of the organized crime like the American Cosa Nostra or the South America's cartels of drugs. So
No, I had a few relatives who were in organized crime, but I never actually worked on them. And no, I've never done organized crime investigations. No, but that's a whole interesting culture that's in some cases is victimless crimes. A lot of what organized crime does is victimless crimes that society wants. They organized crime provides services to the public that they want that isn't always legal, and that's what causes them to exist, you know. But I've never investigated organized crime type activities.
So we have
except for drug. I've done drugs, but not specifically with the organized crime folks.
oh, so drug cases is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. We have Miss Ancolada, and she had a question. She was the teacher who actually requested you. You should be able to unmute.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Hi, it was a pleasure. Very good thing. Thank you in advance for you being able to come out and speak to our students as well as the international students. So I guess my big question is, and the reason why I wanted your wonderful presence is, I think a lot of students are interested in the field of forensic science, and from someone that has your experience, what is your recommendation for like streamlining their career dreams and how they can go ahead and do it now, being in high school, into going into college and like streamlining it so that they don't get like kind of tangled in the college loop or certification loops? And then what do you think are some obstacles that they may be presented along the way? And like, what would you do as a master educator to go ahead and guide them?
Ralph, could you just help me because it was hard. It was hard hearing that audio.
No, you're
okay.
fine. Your microphone was cutting on our end, Ms. Ancolada. So I know you had typed your question, so I'll get that out. So she wanted to know, there's a few questions in here. We'll start with the first one. What is your recommendation for students that are interested in a field of forensic science in today's day and age?
Okay. Some people think that they have to go find a program that has a forensic science curriculum. That's not necessarily the case at all. It's my opinion that people who are hiring forensic scientists are looking for people who have a strong background in chemistry and biology. So, you know, remember the forensic part simply means understanding the law and how it's applied to what you're doing. So I would tell students that if they're interested in a career in forensic science, that today, again, because it's so popular, most of the jobs, they're requiring a master's degree. And maybe 10, 15 years ago, a bachelor's degree would be enough, but really, at least in the bigger areas that I'm familiar with, they're asking for a master's degree. But they don't. They should simply they can get a degree in science. If they have a university that they're aware of that's near with them that has a forensic science program, then if I had to have a choice, I would go with the science curriculum versus a forensic science curriculum. Not to criticize that. It's just that, up to 5-10 years ago, we didn't even have undergraduate forensic science programs. They were created because they were money makers. The universities create curriculum if they think it'll sell. And again, forensic science is so popular that it's selling. But I just want them to know that if they're in the middle school now or they're in high school, if they think that's something they want to do, then work hard at in their areas, of the hard sciences, chemistry, biology, and in those areas, and math, etc. When you get to college, like University of Maryland, we have 35,000 students. We don't have a forensic science program. We have the #1 criminal justice program in the country. I like to, and that's fact. And we have some great chemistry, biology, physics. Those departments are great also. So I always tell students, major in the hard science, and then if that university has a criminal justice program, just take a few elective courses in criminal law, criminal procedure, because the future employers will like to see that. Like to see that they took a few criminal law, constitutional law type courses, and that overlaps to become forensic science. That's all forensic means, applied to law.
Are there any obstacles, or did you have any obstacles when you were studying to get your degree?
Yes, I had obstacles. I didn't have a science background. I didn't have a science background. I didn't even like science. I went to a Catholic high school in Massachusetts that didn't even have laboratories. We learned biology and chemistry out of a textbook. So I didn't have a strong sense of that. I never wanted to be a forensic scientist working in a laboratory. I wanted to be an investigator. And I knew that science understanding science and how it's applied would help me be an investigator. So I didn't want to do it. I wanted to understand the capabilities. In fact, I teach a forensic course to non-science majors. They're criminal justice majors. And I teach that course that way. Do we do some hands-on stuff in the lab? Yeah, but just enough for them to appreciate, how the evidence is analyzed, etc. But bottom line is they need to understand what the scientific evidence is, what it tells them, and how they can apply it to an investigative investigation, looking for information to prove two things. One, that a crime was committed, and two, that a certain person or persons committed the crime. That's what evidence is all about, to prove those two things.
Well, that is as straightforward advice as we can get. And before we let you go, Dr. Mauriello, the last question, it'll be from me. As these kids kind of go off into the world, whether they want to go into criminal science or forensics or whatever it may be, whatever they want to do in life, as someone who's a leader in your field, what kind of advice would you give to them as they figure out what they want to do with their lives?
Yeah. Go and participate in as many internships as possible. As many hands-on type things. We have some great internships tend to become jobs afterwards. And you want to be able to apply the theory that you learn in the classroom to reality. And the only way you can do that is to participate in various internships. Universities now, you get credit for it, and I have really seen that is a real difference for a lot of my students. It was a difference for me when I was an undergraduate way back in the early 70s. I actually did an internship in the probation area. No, I didn't want to be a probation officer, but watching it really work really gave me an appreciation for the whole process. Gave me a global view of the criminal justice system.